Mr. Shi?
Here.
Mrs. Maroney?
Here.
Mrs. Ward?
Yeah, here.
Mrs. Monica?
Here.
Mr. Erico?
Here.
Mr. Prescher?
Here.
Mr. DiStefano?
Here.
Mr. Patel?
Here.
All present but Mrs. Peng.
Opening statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon.
I want him. I'm not getting it.
In accordance with the provision of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education and Administrative offices. Copies of the notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 8th and 23rd, 2018. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations. So this month we have a couple meeting minutes. If you have any questions for the March 14 and March 19th minutes, you can contact Mr. Michaud. So next up, administrative reports. Dr. O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. This evening, as we have done throughout the year, one of the things we wanted to do is highlight some of the great teaching going on in our schools. And tonight is no exception, as we have some teachers joining us this evening to share some of the just fantastic things they're doing in their classrooms. But to introduce them, I'd like to introduce Ms. Baninder Mahabir, who is our Chief Academic Officer for Elementary, and she will lead us this evening.
It's always a pleasure for me to stand up here in front of you because I'm always so excited about what I'm about to share, what my teachers are about to share. I shouldn't say me. So today we have Jill Emick and Amy Marzano, who are gifted and talented teachers at Washington and J&P and also at Menlo Park School. Along with working with students, they also have a very important role, which is to provide consultancy services to our teachers, which is if a teacher has questions about strategies to use with kids, any kids, they will help that teacher to kind of figure out where to go and what to do, how to stretch, how to scaffold, any of those things for their lessons. So what they're here to talk to you today about is something really exciting that we have in second grade where they push in and kind of provide science enrichment to our students. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about that.
Hi, everybody. So thank you so much for having us tonight. We're really excited and very proud of what we put together for our second graders. We're going to watch them in action, and then we'll backtrack and talk to you about what we put together. At our work. Okay, so we're going to start with our goals. Maybe. Just going to, yeah. Okay, great. So the activities that we put together for the kids were designed to work around the engineering design process. That is a 7-year-old environmental engineer at work there. And we started with a question in this experience. You know, can you design technology that can get that water clean? And you see there he's designed his filter, and then we take them through every stage of the engineering process, where they're asking questions, and then they're imagining possibilities, making a plan, designing it, testing it, and then going back, most importantly, and improving their design. So at this point, we're asking questions like, so what could you change about your filter? And the kids are asking themselves and their group members questions about that. So could we add something? What happens when we change the order of the materials? The tasks are what we call low threshold, high ceiling tasks. And what that means is all students can engage in them, but they really challenge the ones that are ready for that challenge. It also acts as embedded professional development for our classroom teachers, because we're in there every week. We're modeling the higher level questioning that we use all the time, and that's been really great for the classroom teachers. And finally, probably most importantly, we're really getting to know all of the students. In our coaching role, a lot of times we have teachers that ask us for materials and strategies to use to work with kids, and now we're really able to put a face with the names. So we push in on a cart every week. We walk into the classrooms and the kids cheer when we come in, which is really wonderful, because they're excited about what we're doing. And some of the setup of this can be a little bit elaborate. And so it really works, because we're able to prepare multiple classes, experiences on a cart, and we're really able, to meet the kids' needs, in the classroom. The lessons are either anchors or extensions. So we took a look at our kids and our standards and our curriculum, and we really design things that go a little bit deeper and a little further than they're doing in their regular classroom. So some of the experiences, Jill's going to talk about the density experiment when she talks about inquiry-based learning in a minute. But just to go over a little, just a couple of the experiences. The one on the upper right, the kids love the animal adaptation unit. So they're working on that in their regular class, and then we're coming in and doing these hands-on experiments with the kids. That's giraffe spit, that they love that lesson, that allows a giraffe to survive in its ecosystem. And the water filters we talked about. And in the middle, you see the boy there. He is an aerospace engineer, and he has designed 2 parachutes with different canopy sizes, and he's trying to see which one works the best. And he's exploring concepts like air resistance, and then he's asking questions like, okay, so what happens if I change the material or make the drag lines smaller? And that gets into our inquiry-based learning that Jill's going to talk about.
Thank you, Amy. So what is inquiry-based learning that we keep hearing all about? When I was a kid, I actually went to the Edison schools, and we would have a science textbook where we would read a page or two, and then once in a blue moon there'd be an experiment where we would follow the steps exactly as written, and we got the answer we were supposed to get. Inquiry-based learning is all about asking questions, inquiring. So it could be a teacher-generated question, but we also try to push the kids to ask their own questions. So we thought with this density rainbow lesson, the kids learn about solids, liquids, and gases in their regular class. Then we come in and we're like, well, let's talk about liquids for a second. Can you stack a liquid like you can a solid, like the blocks? So we stack the blocks, and they're all like, no, never, it'll mix together. So we're challenging their assumptions. We do the experiment, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, why is that happening? And then the questions start spewing out of them. What happens if we make the red one underneath? What are these liquids? Are they different? Are they water? Is it? And then they'll say, well, let's do that. Let's do the red one first. So we're like, okay, let's take another beaker. And then they test what their ideas are. Or what happens if you turn the whole thing upside down? So we follow through, we do it, and they all mix together. So the kids are asking questions, coming up with ways to test their own questions, and they're so enthusiastic, and we're empowering them. Instead of us saying, here's what you do, we're like, I don't know, what should you do? And they're rising to the occasion. We also do things like we'll post images or pictures or a video and say, what does this make you wonder? And so the kids will put Post-its up. So I don't have my glasses, so let me look here. On the top left, one of a good question was, why does the water look blue in the ocean but clear in a cup? A couple kids were wondering the same thing. So based on their different questions, they form little groups or partnerships, and we help them do research, and then they share out all the different things they learned about water on Earth, which is tied to their curriculum, but they have much more time to dive into it and ask questions that they're interested in. The next slide is just a sample of some of their work. So in this inquiry, it's not just fun and games, but we teach the kids to be real engineers and scientists and to record, take data, record their observations, and draw conclusions. So this second grader, who I think was 7 years old, we were talking about the parachute lesson with gravity versus air resistance, which is something I learned about in high school. And he was able to understand that the tissue paper fell more slowly. We were trying to land a rover on Mars, and we needed a parachute to slow it down. And he said, well, this tissue paper fell slowest because there was a sheer fabric with holes. So the air, it couldn't gather air resistance because it went right through the holes. And the tissue paper had more air resistance. And this is a 7-year-old who was able to understand that concept, which was awesome. The kids also love getting the chance, so this is in the engineering design process, their imagine phase, where they brainstorm lots of ideas. And now they know they need this stage because most of their experiments don't come out great the first time, so they go back to that sheet and try again. And they love getting the chance to, there's not one right answer, and even if they fail, they have time to go back and rework it and think through what they could do differently next time. So from this program, this is our second year doing it. We've noticed, like Amy said, increased student engagement in science. They love science. I have a first grade daughter who hates science, and it kills me because I'm like, my kids love it. When they see the car in the hall, they're like, whose class are you coming to? And the second grade teachers we see now are doing tons more inquiry-based instruction, asking amazing questions of the kids, encouraging them to ask questions. And as the year progresses, like by this point in the year, the kids are so much more comfortable coming up with their own questions, testing out their theories, working together. It's been a huge improvement, and just coming up with their own hypotheses and solutions. So I will leave you with some words from the wise.
What I learned in science is that different liquids have different. What I learned in science is that different liquids have different densities that make them stack.
I like how engineers don't give up and they keep on trying. The wind will go under the parachute, and then the wind will like lift up the parachute.
And then grab the gravel. You use the gravel so the dirty water will absorb it. What I learned from science is that water is so strong that it can make canyons like the Great Canyon. Particles will go down, but then some of them will stay in there. Some of the atoms will stay.
I tried it at home and I kept on trying until the water started to get clear.
I love science because it gives me a push and a challenge to understand concepts I didn't before.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, her daughter is not in school here, so her first grader is not in school here.
Maybe you should come here.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I really like this inquiry-based learning. It's much easier for the kids to remember by doing these experiments than just looking at the textbooks or looking at the iPad. So this is great. That we hope that it goes across the board. So I do have a question. What is the percentage of the kids that's in the G&T program? Roughly?
The top 10 to 12%.
10 to 12%?
But that's why we love this program, because we get to work with all second graders, which
Okay.
is great.
So these kids are getting pulled out of the normal classes, right? Or
No, they're not.
They're not? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How often does a typical class get to experience this?
Once a week, they're doing it right now.
Okay.
Anything else?
I just had a question. So I know that we did GNT for math and English, and this is something new I'm seeing. So was this introduced this year or like?
It's been 2 years.
2 years.
Place, yeah.
So we piloted at Martin Luther King School and Washington School, and from there it grew. It was a success, and we continued it.
So sorry. No. So the kids who are in this science, are they also in the math or reading, or it's like
it's
different?
It's in 2nd grade, so we don't have any pull-out for
Oh, yeah,
GNT,
so you have it only in
right?
3rd grade
So this
onwards.
is for everybody in 2nd grade. Everybody in 2nd grade gets to experience this.
Oh, so this is not a pull-out program?
No,
Oh,
there's
wow,
no
that's
identification.
awesome.
It's just school-wide enrichment for all kids. We were like, the things we could do, all kids could benefit from, so.
Okay, that's great. So it's not selective. You're just giving it to everybody.
Right.
That's awesome.
I just want to say thank you and commend you the language that the kids were using, the science vocabulary that they clearly understand, absorb, excuse me. But also, they may not down the line remember the specific experiments that they did in 2nd grade, but they will develop a very good feeling about themselves as experimenters and science in general. So you're laying a foundation here that is extremely important. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Yes.
No stipend.
Put it on the side too.
Only Andy doesn't come tonight.
There is it.
Watching the Mets.
Yeah. Still gonna finish below 500.
Okay. Next is, still on you.
We continue?
Yeah.
Okay, under Superintendent's Report, item B, we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony on Monday evening for the Woodbrook edition. In your packet is a sort of a ribbon cutting ceremony agenda. Just know that we're welcoming everyone to come around 6:15 to do a little tour, and then we will start the agenda at 6:30 moving forward. We did open up the cafeteria and the gym this week, and we're quite excited to have over 1,000 kids have lunch in a cafeteria instead of their classrooms. I want to thank Chartwell's. They did some really nice things this week, free cookie day, free ice cream day. They're doing a $1 lunch, and then Friday's going to be a free lunch for everyone. So
wow.
You may want to stay away from the cafeteria on Friday around 12 to 1. But it really is an exciting time. If you haven't had a chance, wait till you see it. It's really a great addition to our school district, and we're excited to have that added on.
So how about the classes? Are they still moving in yet, or it's later?
So we're using some of the classes right now for some of those areas that were in closets and some of those small areas, but the actual classrooms, those teachers are in the budget for the coming year. So those will start. Music class can do that as well. And then, as you'll know, and I'll say on Monday night, we have a second phase of this, which is the multi-purpose room. That is going to be the art room in the library, and that started as well.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, next is on Monday evening, we'll also have student recognition. We'll have 252 students that we'll be recognizing in our district for their various different types of achievements. Item D is the appointment of a interim anti-bullying coordinator for the district. Our current district anti-bullying coordinator is out on leave. So we need to appoint someone for the remainder of the school year. So Ms. Cataldi has graciously accepted that, and we appreciate that. Moving on, E is our asking the board for approval for our DPRs. This is our annual CUSAC that we have. They actually will be here. The state will be here on Monday to review our documents, tour some of our schools. They have selected Lindenau, TJ, and Edison High School. to walk through, so the state will be here. These are the sort of the documents that we provide them for self-assessment, and then they come in and they review those documents in the district. And so we'll ask on Monday night that the board approve these so they can review those on Monday when they actually come to the district to do our review. And, you know, operations, personnel, fiscal management, governance, instruction and program, those are the categories, as you can see, that are broken down. Any questions so far?
Just finished ours last week.
Item F is to revise the 2018-2019 calendar. We wanted to make a little delay as we had a wonderful March and April. What we added to the calendar was the first day of school being a single session day, so we picked up a day. By all means, it is not perfect and it is not great for educators and educationally sound, but we really were struggling to grab another day. I will ask the board to approve this on Monday, but I will also ask you to just hold off on doing anything else with the calendar, as we are still waiting word from Rutgers for either a Friday or a Saturday graduation. We usually learn that in May. And so we still have plenty of time. We now have 2 snow days built in. We're moving forward. But before we have to make any other changes to the calendar, I would rather have that decisive decision from Rutgers before we have to make some other decisions.
Okay, I just have one suggestion that I spoke to some of the folks. On November 6th, that's the election day. That's one of the suggestions, is to make that a half day and make the second half of the day at the PD, so we can gain one more snow day. So this is something for the board members to consider. That's another option here. So we'll gain one more day. And we used to do that, you know, school's in session and we have elections ongoing anyway. So it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, and looking at the calendar, and maybe Shivi or Fal could answer, it says Diwali also. Is that the holiday? Is that the specific day?
I think
Because it says November 6th is professional development / Diwali.
Yeah, I think it's always teachers do come in on Diwali. I think that's as far as I know.
So what I'm saying is, if we make it a half day per Jerry's suggestion, will it hurt the holiday? That's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, so let's wait for the Rutgers thing to come back. I mean, I just had one suggestion on the school calendar, and I know that a lot of states did this. So, you know, in years where there are so many snow days, maybe we can, you know, make a request to the state to waive that 180-day requirement and, you know, make a 178-day or 177. I know a lot of states did that, and they did school districts in other states, and it was waived.
There was a school district just recently that asked for that and got denied in Jersey.
But we can keep trying.
Well, I mean, we were denied when we had the fire from Monroe.
Yeah.
We've been denied, but I would concur that a lot of states do in different ways. Delaware, you know, the governor just did 6 days. Virginia, I know the state of Virginia, they use hours rather than days, so they can make up during the course of the year, shorten recess, things like that. We're one of those states. Not only do we pump our own gas, we also have these rules that don't apply to everyone else. So I think that would maybe be someone we can talk to the New Jersey school boards. Maybe they can talk to the governor or someone to make sure that we look into that. But we're one of the last states standing sort of for that.
Yeah, I mean, if we make, like, you know, a group of, like, school districts, if we go together and, you know, try and talk this through. I mean, one school district on its own, maybe it's not that easy, but if it's like a group of school districts doing it, you know, we might get, because in any case, on a half day, the kids don't really learn that much, and it's just to kind of meet that requirement of that additional day. Right. So, I mean, that would be one suggestion, and I know Fal and I also spoke about this.
Yeah, I know in my district, we get that Friday, Monday, and Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend. And what we do is, if we use the snow days, then we bring the students in for half days, but we use those 3 days as actual days off, but we go later in the school year, so.
Yeah, let me take it back. I didn't notice that was a Diwali, so that's not a good suggestion, so take it back.
So I think we'll just leave it as is.
I think the key is
hopefully
Rutgers
moves forward.
Yeah.
And I just sent Mr. Shee an email that they emailed us back and said they haven't finalized their calendar, so hopefully by May is usually when we get it, and then we can make some decisions moving forward. Next is just one student removing from the rolls, letter G. Item H, to recognize our nurses in our school district. We have 19 certified school nurses, 5 RNs, and 2 LPNs. I say this every year. They're sort of, we talk about the number of students that they handle in our schools is enormous, and the health needs, and so we really like to recognize our school nurses in all of our buildings. We're one, again, a good thing that New Jersey does, we're one of the few states that really make sure that we have nurses in all buildings. And school districts across this country, nurses are one maybe per district and not a priority. So we really are very fortunate here to have that. So we want to make sure we recognize our school nurses as well.
Just one quick question. Before, we were saying that our district is short of nurses. Are we filled up all those openings, or we're still short?
I believe
Camp Bernie, because one of the main reasons was that we're short of nurses. We can't afford to send out for overnights and stuff. Just want to make sure that.
So those are trips that are separate, and we will have that issue next year for Camp Bernie. But for our district nurses, we're okay filling those.
Right now, we filled all the openings.
I think we might have one opening.
One opening, okay.
Little bird in the audience told me we have one opening.
I have a question, Dr. O'Malley, on nurses.
Sure.
So if a nurse is sick herself, so what's the process? Like, are we able to replace for the day a substitute nurse? Is it easy to find a substitute nurse, or some days schools go without a nurse?
We try to find a nurse. Some cases we would, worst case scenario, we'd pull from the high school has 3 nurses to one of the other schools. We do have a district nurse that kind of roams, but every time we have an opening, usually that district nurse takes that position, and then the district nurse becomes available, and that's the case sort of now. So on a daily basis, we're good with nurses. It's those extra trips and things like that that we struggle with to get nurses and the nursing profession as a whole, not just in the district. Moving on to professional development, I think. Just my computer froze.
The BABES program.
Oh, the BABES program?
BABES, yep.
So we have the BABES program, which is a 2nd grade program we've done in the district for a long time, asking for that approval. And then professional development documentation. And then finally, our out-of-district placements. We have a few out-of-district placements, 7 of them in particular, but we seem to manage those fairly well this year up to this point, so we're sort of not as far back as we were last year. I would like to just make 2 quick announcements following my thing. One of the schools, John Adams Middle School, if you recall, a couple years back, the state put into effect these focus schools and schools in need, and John Adams was one of those schools that got caught in the net of the difference between the top performing students and 2 subgroups. And in John Adams, it was African American students and it was special ed students. There was a 40% gap in between those, and so they were considered a focus school. We received indication that we have made great progress and closed that achievement gap, and so that school next year will not be a focus school. It took a lot of work on the part of the administration there in the building and all the teachers and the amount of work that had to be done. So it's a pretty great accomplishment to receive this exit letter from the commissioner saying that John Adams will no longer be a focus school because they have closed those achievement gaps over the past couple years, which is really great news as we try to make sure we address all students in our district. The second item would be, I had sent the board members an email regarding this group called background.org, who listed the top school districts in New Jersey. I'm not a big fan of these rankings, and we could always look at the metrics behind them, but what I think about is important about this one is that the Edison Public Schools were ranked 12th in the state of New Jersey as a district. This is the first time, I think, as a district it's not one school, it's not just one high school or elementary school, it's our district that's being recognized. And there's no other school district close to our size and as diverse as us. And although it's not a great ranking, I just think it's nice to recognize our school district. We work so hard, every school, and as a district, I think it was important to share that with everyone as they're, when you talk about the top school districts of the Princeton, the Milburns, and things like that, our whole district, which is probably 3 times the size of those districts, gets recognized. So I just wanted to mention that. And then finally, if everyone saw, we began to implement the Stop It app, which is going into effect, and we did some releases to that, and I think our administrators were trained, and I think that's going to be an additional item that we talked about for school security that we've added and implemented throughout the district. So I just wanted to mention those 3 items.
Dr. O'Malley, what did that Stop It cost us? Not much, right?
So it was, the app and everything was free
Okay.
from our insurance company, but we paid an additional $4,000 because we got the monitor, actual live human being
Gotcha.
that monitors all those things, and that would report to the administration of whether something is very serious or it looks like it wasn't serious, so they monitor. So that human thing, $4,000 for the entire year.
Yeah.
In our case, it was I think 18 months because when we started it. So
Right.
It's a pretty good deal to have that aspect of it as well.
Yep. Okay.
All right, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now it's the Mr. Michaud, the finance report, right?
Yes, if you turn to your investment report, you'll see for the month of March, we received interest in the amount of $27,781. That brings our interest this year up to $189,578. The next 6 pages is the board secretary's report for the month of February, followed by the treasurer and school monies report for the same period. The resolutions that will be presented for Monday night approval. We want to, again, for next year, participate in the Ed Services Commission of New Jersey, which is Middlesex County's Ed Services Commission, for the transportation coordination that we've been taking advantage of. That's where we actually have them find some bus routes for us. And that's usually later in the year after we have our bids on our renewals already in place. It's usually special education. And what happens in this case is where the Ed Service Commission actually takes the students that go to a specific out-of-district school, and maybe Metuchen has one going there, maybe Woodbridge does, and instead of paying the full rate for that one run, we pay 1/3 if we have 1/3 of the students on there. It saves us quite a bit of money by doing that. But we also, if you see the second one, is for Somerset County, because Middlesex County has been having some problems getting some routes because of the shortage of CDL drivers in the state. So we'd also like to have the opportunity to go to Somerset. If we can't get it through Middlesex, we'd like to go to Somerset as an alternate. So we'd like to have that one approved also. Item number 3, we have a Colonial Life Company is a voluntary life insurance policy for our employees. It doesn't cost the district anything. It's fully voluntary by the employees and is payroll deducted. They pay the full rate if they want to take a life policy through Colonial Life. But all we're doing in this case is just approving them as a vendor to offer their products, their life insurance policies to our employees. The ETA has reviewed this and they were okay with it, and they recommended it to me to have the board approve it. Item number 4 is a list of the non-public security purchases for some of the non-public schools in Edison. This is state money that comes through us. We purchase these materials. They purchase the materials through Ed Service Commission, but the board has to approve it in advance before they can actually order it. That's followed by technology supplies, also non-public, also state money. Doesn't cost us a thing. We just process the paperwork. Item number 6 is a change order for Woodbrook School. It's in the amount of $9,680, and what happened in this case was due to the field conditions over at Woodbrook, they had to perform an additional load bank test for the emergency generators at Woodbrook School. And then we determined that the problem we were having was because of a filter was put in by Elizabethtown Gas, because there wasn't enough pressure. And even though we have to pay the contract for doing the work, we're going after Elizabethtown Gas to reimburse us for it, because they're the ones who put that in. And they pretty much acknowledged that, but they don't want to pay for it. Well, we're looking for them to pay for it back to us, because we shouldn't have to pay almost $10,000 for something they did. So we'll keep you updated on that. Item number 7 is a list of obsolete items that we received from the schools. Item number 8 is the bill list for the month of March in the amount of $27,863,854. And each one of the board members received a copy of the bill list. If you have any questions on it, please give me a call. And the last item is the transportation report for the month of April. And as you can see, these are all special ed runs. Some of them are renewals for this year, and some of them are jointures. Again, jointures are where we try to get as many jointures as we can, so we only pay a portion of the route. And we have some displaced students, jointure runs, and special ed renewals for the current year. And that concludes my report, Mr. Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Michaud. Now we are open for open discussions. Board members? Yes, Mr. Maroney.
First of all, I was at a PTO meeting at James Madison Primary this week, and they are so excited, and I know they will be very excited for me to announce this. They are having their first science fair on April 25th, and they have worked very, very hard on this. And even the kindergartners will be participating. And there was big debate back in the fall as to whether or not they could handle participating in a science fair. And very excited to hear that they are able to do that. So all of this emphasis on science is just a step in the right direction. So I'm thrilled about that. I also want to note that Mr. Ian Hockley returned to Edison today. We started out this morning at the Educational Services Commission and spoke to administrators and supervisors over there. And then Dr. O'Malley graciously allowed us to have a very surprisingly large, like huge number of people that came to hear Mr. Hockley speak and introduce the Wingman program once again. Mrs. Badovsky and Mrs. Conway were there to hear possibly about participating as trainers down the line as we roll out this program. For those of you who don't remember, Mr. Hockley's little boy Dylan was killed in the Sandy Hook tragedy 6 years ago, and he has thrown his time and efforts now into remembering Dylan through this foundation. And the program itself is a social emotional program geared to empower children and to teach them social skills, things like empathy and how to get along and how to collaborate and how to do teamwork. And it's really very impressive. So we are definitely going ahead with the program in New Jersey and hope to implement it in Edison as one of the pilot districts in the very near future, and we'll be reporting more on that as we move along. But it's really an overwhelming project, and we're very excited about it. So again, thanks, Dr. O'Malley, for allowing us to host it here. Thanks, Mr. Shee.
Sure. So what will it take for us to implement in our district?
Good question. Well, first of all, it's free.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one thing that everybody wants to know. What it's going to take, so basically what happens is there are a group of us, former teachers, who are going to go up to Connecticut, which is where the program was piloted originally. It's in 20 schools in Connecticut. And it also is done in dance schools, summer camps, and they're now moving into athletic areas as well. And so there are a group of us who will then be trained this summer, and the trainers will then be assigned to schools, and depending on how much time a trainer has, he or she may be assigned to one school, to who knows, however many you wish. And that trainer goes in and teaches the teachers there who are interested in running the program. But the program itself is run by the students. So the students and the administration and the teachers will decide what area that school needs work in. For example, maybe you have a culture of bullying in your building, and you want to make children understand that that is not good behavior and that you permanently damage somebody when you bully. So the children then will come up with ideas and activities to introduce why bullying is a bad thing, why it is hurtful. And these activities, by the way, are fun and engaging and student-led, but then the important and the key element is then to refer that back as to why that's not good behavior. And just like, you know, the inquiry-based learning today that we heard about, this is kind of the same idea, that as Ian was explaining to me today, you get the kids to ask why. Why is this wrong? Why shouldn't I do this? Not just don't do it, but why don't we do this? Why don't we treat people this way? And of course, this piece is to help with the mental illness because, you know, Mr. Hockley's little boy and the other victims of Sandy Hook were killed by a disaffected young man who, you know, unfortunately didn't get the help he needed and ended up killing a lot of people, and his own life was lost. So this is to empower children, to help them know who to go to if they're having a problem or if they know of a problem brewing. So what we're hoping, Mr. Shee, to answer that question, is that we will train teachers early in the year next year and get the program rolling sometime in the fall.
So next year,
yeah.
okay.
But right, we're hoping for, and it's not going to go immediately into 20 schools.
Sure,
you know,
sure,
we'll
sure.
pilot it in a couple of schools, see how it goes, and it is particularly geared for middle school. So the first group of children that would be trained would be 8th graders, who then would turnkey the program to the 7th, then turnkey to the 6th, and so on. But we see a lot of potential for this, particularly for once the kids have been wingmen for a while. You take the 10th graders, and when the kids are being oriented into the 2 high schools, you know, you have those kids who already know this training and then can ease the transition of our 8th graders into the 9th grade. So there's so much potential.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? Yes.
Thank you. So I was at the MLK PTA event yesterday, and I just wanted to mention that you know, the Odyssey of the Mind, what an awesome job that club is doing. 3 teams that competed recently performed for the PTA. There were parents and there were teachers, and they really did a really awesome job. And just looking at them just made me feel like, you know, Jans and JP Stevens has a really bright future. I know a lot of kids from JP Stevens and all the other schools. They typically make it to the Worlds. And I think one of the teams actually, Odyssey of the Mind has 2 components. One is a long-term, which the subject is already given to kids, and they basically kind of prepare for it, and then they go and perform that. And the other one is spontaneous, where they get to know at that very moment what they're supposed to do, and they have to kind of devise amongst themselves. They cannot get any help from any teachers or anybody else. So one of the teams actually got 100% on spontaneous. So I thought that, you know, I should just bring this to the board and let them know that the MLK Odyssey of the Mind team is really doing a great job. That's all.
Any other? Yes.
Just real quick, this past Sunday, even though it was bitterly cold and rainy, the ETA, along with the Custodians Union and Police Department, Fire Department, held a family day over at Edison High, the PSA&G parking lot over there. Amazingly enough, we had a nice little turnout. Everyone was hooded and gloved up, and but most of the schools were represented, and I just wanted to thank the ETA, the Police Department, the Fire Department, and the Custodians Union for putting on a nice event.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Mrs. Ward.
You can know.
Oh, okay. I just thought of it.
Sure.
I meant to mention it before. This coming Sunday is the CARES Walk at Edison High School. It's one of the major fundraising events for that organization. Can't hear.
Next.
Oh, it's the following Sunday. Oops. Thank you. What time does it start, Matt?
9.
Registration's at
9 o'clock.
Okay, thank you very much. I got to brush up on those details on Monday. Yeah, I'll be better on Monday, I promise. But anyway, if word hasn't gotten out yet, it's a very important fundraiser. All the money from CARES goes back to the community, all kinds of wonderful things and food and things that they give to the community, clothing for the needy. And so all the money raised for CARES comes right back to our families here in Edison. Thanks.
Thank you. So, any other? Oh, yeah, Teresa. Mrs. Ward.
Just a reminder that we're still in Autism Month.
There you go. Look at that.
And all the schools will be having their autism program. I was at the PTO at Woodbrook School last night, and they will be having their program on Monday, April 30th. And I also want to remind everyone that this is also National Abused Child Month. And this doesn't, it's a program that really we should look at our abused children. Every day we pick up the paper and we see that someone abused a child. So please keep your eyes open for children who are abused. It is so important that they get through childhood without the trauma. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Any other board members? Okay, I have 2 announcements. The first is the J.P. Stevens Jazz Festival. It's this Friday at 8 o'clock. Beautiful music. I go there almost every year if I can. $15 for general public, $10 for seniors and students. 8 o'clock. Just go there and enjoy the music, beautiful music. It's not only our kids, we have a professional band there as well. The other thing is that a couple months ago we talked about having a memorial plaque for Debbie Ains. We're going to name we're going to name the J.P. Stevens Fitness Center to Debbie Ains Fitness Center. So the dedication we already picked up right now. We have decided it will be on May 22nd. It will be 5 o'clock in the afternoon at J.P. Stevens. So we'll have a dedication. Then we're going to have a small reception. We welcome people to attend. And we also welcome donations to Debbie Ains' Memorial Scholarship. After Debbie passed away, we set up a scholarship for Debbie Ains. So, we're looking for donations so we can have the scholarship continue to go, as long as we can. So thank you for that.
Where do those donations go to?
The donation will go to the school district and send to Dan. And on the bottom of the note, you can say, Debbie Ains Memorial Scholarship Fund.
So make a check out to the Edison Township Board of Education?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We have received enough money to make the plaque. So any additional money that we get will go directly to the scholarship fund. There are a couple other things I'd like to talk, because I saw some of the parents, so maybe we can, I know some of the things were discussed at the curriculum meeting.
I think it's on Monday I'll give an update.
Yeah, so the parents are here, so maybe we can give an update, and so probably some of the questions will be answered. The first one is the Hindi language program. As far as I understand, there were a lot of emails coming back and forth. We have 49 students that are currently enrolled in the program. The plan is to stop the program this coming school year. A lot of requests.
That's not the plan.
That was not the plan?
No,
it was the plan.
It was a plan.
It's not the plan.
Okay, all right. So that's good. That's why I'm glad to hear that. So the reason of that is, it's for the graduation requirements of 2 semesters, and there were a lot of colleges there recommending these kids to have a 3-year or 4-year second the foreign language requirements. So we want to see what we can do to help these kids. So if you can, any one of it can provide an update on that. So we can start for that one and have another issue.
Yeah, so basically that was one of the topics we added to our curriculum meeting that we met on April 12th. And all the committee members were jointly felt like this was something that we should, at least try and. Kids should not be denied admission to a college just because they can't do the 3rd year of language for no fault of theirs. So right now we have like a couple of options that we are exploring, and so we are trying to find a teacher. I know we had a teacher who was teaching, but then she was a full-time teacher, and we have to kind of reach out to her and see if she can, teach part-time, or if there is some other role we can offer her so then she can be teaching for a full day. And we will also be, I think Debbie will be reaching out to MCC if that does not happen. And then There is also a group called Hindi USA, which has some teachers, and I have tried to reach out to that group to see if they have teachers who can come and teach. So at this point, we are trying to, we're trying really hard to find someone so that these kids are able to have their third year of Hindi. And in fact, yeah. So. You have a question? You want to come there? And can she ask?
Let's finish it.
Okay. So maybe at the end you can ask the questions when it opens to the public. So, so at this point we are trying really hard, and I personally don't want that any student who wants to pursue Hindi is denied because if they're not able to get admission or not able to apply to a school just because they did not do a third year of language, that's not something that we would want to take that burden on our heads that we caused that. So we're trying to get someone.
Everybody's doing the same thing. That's a good plan.
Let me see if I have something else.
Okay, the others.
If you want, yeah.
Okay. So the other topic I wanted maybe have an update is because a lot of parents had the concerns. It's the ebook usage. We had a lot of parents who had concerns on that, and I'm looking for eager to find out what's the result of the discussion. So I don't know if anyone can provide an update.
I can provide an update, yeah. Shall I just read from my curriculum committee minutes because I had an update from there?
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to just read out what I was going to read on Monday because it's easier and I'll be faster. So the committee discussed the Discovery Math program. The program was introduced during the 2017-18 school year at the middle school level as a pilot. If successful, the program would have also been introduced at the high school level. However, given significant apprehension about the program and issues brought to the CTC, which is the Curriculum and Technology Committee, in its fall 2017 meeting, decision was taken to not introduce the program at the high school level. To discuss future course for middle school and as a follow-up, the CTC met with students at the Woodrow Wilson Middle School during December 2017 to get their feedback on the program. So during the meeting held on April 12th, 2018, the decision was taken to wean
I didn't get that word.
Which word?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. So during the meeting held on April 12, 2018, the decision was taken to wean the program in an expedited and cost-effective manner with seamless transition and minimal disruption. The administration is looking into ways this can be done. One of the options being explored include using traditional hard copy textbook as the primary source of learning and using Discovery only as a supplementary for the 18-19 school year. The administration will form a committee of experts in the coming weeks, which will include teachers, supervisors, etc., to study the future course of math in the middle school. So to summarize, additional information will be collected so that recommendation can be made for a text series which will include print and online material rather than just online. So I just wanted to add that since I have a child who is in the middle school, and what I have experienced as a parent and what I've heard from other parents, and so that Discovery actually is a very, very hard program, and it does not really focus on skill building. So the textbooks that we had, the Glencoe book that we have currently, actually we're using a lot of classes that actually, am I right, Deborah? A lot of teachers are actually just using those books right now. And I believe that those resources will not be taken away. So we'll still have the online, what we have right now, the Glencoe, the print, because I know that a lot of teachers were using those online materials And those were the things that were being given to students. So that will still remain. And so whatever that they had, the traditional books will still remain. And Discovery maybe will stay for a while and then just go away. But I know that we decided to let go of the Discovery program once and for all. We don't want the Discovery program. I mean, for math. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, no Discovery for math. Is it possible we can get a list of some of the courses that we are using purely that online version, and some courses that we have online and textbook, and some courses that we have just textbooks? Actually, you know, I don't know how much we pay for Discovery on the annual licenses basis. I think before the iReady we used for about 4 years, right? I don't know how much the license. My understanding was 700.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
So this is another good news actually, which is we are doing away with iReady.
Okay. Yes, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think people know that. So a lot of kids will be very happy.
Yes.
And also because you know it forced you to do lessons which you really were very good with. So I think we're going to save some money there with the iReady. And I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about like currently we have 4 middle schools with 4,000 students. And these 4,000 students are at all levels, all spectrums of learning, right? From the the weakest to the brightest. So I think what I heard was that unless you have a teacher from all these different schools teaching all these different levels of math, along with all these math experts, how do you come to a book which is perfect for everybody? So I think the focus is basically on the process, like what's the right process to get the right book, and everybody is on the same page. Like the emails that we got, I'm exactly on the same page with the emails because I know that even I've been hearing a lot of things. So I think it's just focus is just process and the different spectrum of students, because a teacher can actually change things and make it appeal to different groups, but then you need to have so I think that's the key. That's what I got from the meeting.
Okay, so my point I want to make is that we have changing curriculum pretty often recently, and some of these curriculum online and stuff cost a lot of money, right? So I read the example we probably used for about 4 years if my information is correct. And iReady cost us a lot of money on the license. Was it $600,000 a year or something?
It's approximately $96,000.
$96,000. Okay, so, but to me, once you buy a textbook, it's one-time thing. It will use it, for a period of time. But for these, even at the end, you don't use a textbook, you can still sell for a couple of bucks, right? And if you don't want to use it, you can use a doorstop. And these online textbooks, once it's gone, it's gone. And whatever the money you invested, it's gone. So just to add on what you said on the processes, moving forward when we change these curriculums, I know we have done some piloting, but moving forward, if we can do a little bit better piloting, from maybe different areas of the district, and before we jump into the gun and replace the whole district with a brand new curriculums, because that's just something for the committee to think about it. Yeah. And again, this goes back to the process, and we try to not having a program we use it for 2 years, we spend a lot of money, then scratch it off. So that's the whole point. As far as whether you can pick the best textbook, I don't know if there is a process, but if we go through the process of doing some piloting and moving not so quickly as to these other things, that will probably help us down the road.
And yes. I think it also has to be like different buildings and not just like one building, so
yes.
that and teachers at teaching the brightest kid as well as the lowest level class. So have like a good mix. So that would help us in trying to come at the right solution, hopefully.
Yes.
I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I was also at the curriculum committee meeting, and Ms. Kulik explained to us the pilot that was done this year for elementary school in the new math program, and it was really done right. It was done at schools on opposite ends of the town, piloted on all different levels. Data was collected, analyzed, input given from parents, teachers, and students as to how well they liked the book. And the book that looks like it's going to be recommended to me as a teacher, one of the most exciting things about it was in the lessons, it explains how to differentiate the lessons. And when you have as many children today that need to be differentiated for it, that is a blessing. So I was very excited. I'm not a math person, as you all know, but I was very excited about this book, this program, and my belief that it was done right. Done right. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to add one more thing about the Hindi language. We also talked about maybe having an option of having it over the summer as a summer course. I don't know if that's something.
But that was I think as the last resort, because we would try and incorporate it in the school, because I think for a lot of people the summer option doesn't work. So we'll try and see, and then we will. It's just work in progress.
Yeah, that was just one option, so we can all explore it. But
Yeah.
So okay. Any other board member? Any additional comments? If none, now we open for public comments. So you have 6 minutes. Name and address. Yes, please. Yes.
Hi, my name is Guru Nagabhushan. I'm I live at 4. Sorry, close one.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Guru. My address is 4 Linwood Road. I have a daughter in high school right now, and a son who graduated from J.P. Stevens, etc. So what I wanted to talk about and introduce was the topic of gun violence prevention. Now, I heard a few things about what the school district is doing in order to protect our children, but I've been working with the Brady campaign for the past 5-6 years, and I just want to take this opportunity to see if we can do something with them, something more to be a little bit more proactive with regards to gun violence prevention. And to that end, I'd like to introduce Karen Cantor here. She lives in Highland Park, but she's the Middlesex County Chair for the Brady campaign. So I'm very pleased to present her, and I hope you can give her a few minutes of your time.
Hi, my name is Karen Cantor. Thank you for letting me speak for a few minutes. So I met Guru, and he and I have been talking. And unfortunately, one of the new realities is that we need to talk about this issue. And I hear that one of the programs that you're doing has to do with social emotional learning, which is great. But the other thing that we have to do is we have to think about what is happening right now. Right now, there are many, 1 in 3 households have guns. And so we need to think about what that means for our children. Let me just give you a little background about the Brady campaign. The Brady campaign is the oldest gun violence prevention organization. It was started back in 1980s when Jim Brady was shot. He was Ronald Reagan's press secretary, and they decided to take on this issue. And so we've been doing a lot of legislative work, but we also feel that right now we need to deal with the issue of guns in the home, because until we get laws changed, we need to deal with this, and we need to talk about how do we protect our children. I just read in the newspaper that there was a child, a 3-year-old child, who shot her mother, her pregnant mother, because she found a loaded gun in her car, underneath the seat of the car, and she just picked it up. And not knowing what she was doing, she shot her mother. We have a program called ASK. It's called Asking Saves Kids. And and the reason that I'm here tonight is to see if we can find a way to promote this program and to let the parents of school-age children know about this program. And so it's very easy. 100 years ago, we probably didn't know that kids had allergies to peanuts, right? But now we know kids have allergies to peanuts. So if your kid goes over Johnny's house, you say to Johnny's mom or father, Johnny is allergic to peanuts. Please make sure that Johnny does not have peanuts. Or your child may be afraid of dogs. So when you call the house, you say, Sarah's coming over to visit Johnny. Do you have big dogs? Yeah, we do. Could you please be aware that Sarah's afraid? Sure. We also now have to ask this question. We have to ask, do you have a gun in your house? You call up, you say, Johnny's coming, Sarah's coming over. By the way, do you have a gun in your house? And the parent will either say, no, I don't, or they'll say, yes, I do. And at which point you need to ask, how is it stored? This is really important because some people do not store their guns. Even though they're supposed to store their guns and keep it locked, not everybody does that because they feel they have to have it accessible. So if the parent says, look, we just keep it under the bed, or we keep it in the shoebox in the closet, you may want to say, well, please, you know what? I would be more comfortable if Johnny came over to my house to play. Because in 80% of the cases, children know where the guns are. And accidents happen. 3,000 children a year are wounded by accidental gun shootings. There's also the possibility of suicide, and we just want to make sure that parents are aware that this is an issue. More and more people have access to have guns, and we want to make sure that this is something that is done. Just finally, this was the program that the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, rated as the best program for children. The NRA has a program called Eddie the Ranger, which some school districts do use, which teaches children not to touch guns. But this is not effective because children are so curious. And so what they found is the most effective is for parents to be talking to parents and to make sure that guns, if they are in the house, that they are stored properly. And we wanted to, Guru and I wanted to talk to you about the possibility of just making the families of Edison aware that this is something, this is our new reality, and in an effort to protect our children, we would like to, this is another thing that we're going to add to the list. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any questions.
Actually, I just want to follow that up with, how can we make this happen, and how can the school board actually help us spread this message in the schools and to the parents?
I think last time when we spoke at the council, you had some flyers. Why don't you leave us some flyers?
Okay.
And then we discuss at the school board how we can, move forward or whatever the decision the school board decides to do.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So I just had a suggestion. Maybe it might be a good idea to also contact the PTOs, some of the PTOs, of various schools, because
I'm
they
working
also
with Sujata, yeah.
Yes, Sujata, and then there are other schools which have their own PTOs. So a lot of times PTOs organize such events where they invite parents, and they have this whole setup of the emails where email goes out to the entire school. So that might be a good way to
Certainly.
approach. Yeah, just one suggestion.
There is another program that she hasn't mentioned yet, the Speak Up program, which is more geared towards students. And we would like to explore that as well, because in most cases, in school shootings especially, it's always, it's always the case where somebody knew, some kid knew, but was afraid to speak up because they didn't want to be labeled as, ratting their friends out or a snitch. So the Speak Up program addresses this, and we would like to try and spread this message in the township schools as well. So I will certainly forward that also to you, Mr. Shi.
Yes.
So we would love to be able to follow up on that as well.
Okay.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Two quick comments. One, if you need to find out all the PTO contacts, it's on the school calendar, I believe. It's not anymore? All the PTO members?
It's on It's on the
Oh,
school.
it just says TBD, okay.
No, it's you actually, if you go onto every school's website,
Website, they have it, right.
There is a PTO tab. If you click on that, there is something which says, email the PTO, and that's how, most schools have it,
Right.
but I don't know if all schools have that or not.
And the other thing is, the board members already instituted, as you heard tonight, the Stop It program, which is
Right.
exactly what you're talking about,
Okay.
where kids are afraid to say something to a principal or a teacher or whatever. Now they could anonymously call this hotline.
Fantastic.
And report it, and there's a person on the other end of the line that will determine how serious the threat is, and then report it to Dr. O'Malley or the administration or the police department. So we already put that into place. Yes.
Yes.
It's all always, it's
for
put,
the students.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. So we already started that.
Fantastic. And just so even parents can actually reinforce this message, how is this message being put out?
Through the
President?
district website.
District website.
Yeah,
okay.
every parent should. We send it to all the parents.
Yeah.
Email went
Because I didn't know,
to-
for example, I have a
It
kid.
went
it
to all
just
the-
went out yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you folks had a town hall? I know some
The
towns
time is up.
have.
Yeah. Time's up.
Have you had a town hall about gun violence, the issue of gun violence?
Yeah, we had a meeting till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'll
All right.
follow up. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Name, address.
I'm Srinivasan. I have two children in Edison Township.
Address?
Edison. I thank extremely.
Name and address, please.
Pardon me?
You have to say that your
Address, yes.
737 Denver Boulevard, Edison, New Jersey. I thank the school district and the Board of Education and the teachers especially for giving the one of the best education possible to the children. I have a lot of respect to the teachers, and I am a family of teachers, from my great grandfather to my father. And my first profession was a teaching profession. Various reasons I ended up in a software profession. So I respect all the teachers. So just to have the Hindi program, we came to know that the Hindi program got discontinued, and I reflect probably some of the parents here, at least 5 or 6 of the families that we know. It's all school families. So we request the board to consider seriously to bring back the program. Because eliminating a program is maybe administration has got their own difficulties. I respect that because I also manage certain things where we need, everyone has to face some challenges, make some decisions, hard decisions, I agree. But with respect to the program, such a world language Hindi program, where this township has got 17% of our population. The diversity is the best thing in this, in the whole township. I respect because this program connects the children to the extended families. When you speak to a person, see, English is like a second language, but my first language is something else. So when I speak to my mother, I always speak in the first language. When I speak to my grandmother, I have to speak in my first language. She's not going to understand anything other than the first language, what we speak. So when these children, when they speak to their extended families, if they speak in the Hindi language, the way in which the other person and the family connects is unbelievable. So that is one aspect, which I feel like, which is one of the best thing that we can give to these children, where they are miles and miles apart from their extended families. The second thing is, as Shivi mentioned, some of the colleges in the recent past, they have changed their requirements. And it is there right on their website. We can name few: NYU, Princeton, Columbia. Yeah. I'm just telling some of the colleges. We didn't look into all the colleges. Some of them are right on their website. They say they require a 3-year or a 4-year. And just happened to see in Columbia, they said it's a 4-year program is recommended. And I see this school district I'm also very proud. Everyone will be here proud. When we see the admission from the JP this year, I don't know about the other school, I can't speak on that, but the JP this year, when we see so many children have gone into this IB and the first year colleges, and many of them have taken their foreign languages very seriously, many of the children. So to that point, so we should seriously consider, I request all the board members to consider seriously bring back the program. If as parents, if we can help in any way, please do let us know. we will extend whatever help we can provide from that perspective. Also, one more thing is maybe the communication part of it. When this program got removed or eliminated, various reasons, right? If the parents have been informed, that would have made some decision. For example, if I come to know, because my daughter in sophomore, had I come to know at the beginning of the school year, maybe administration has a difficulty, a real difficulty, which we all respect, we could have an opportunity to look into other options. Now we are optionless. And 2 years. So if any kid who is in the sophomore, there are 49 children, totally taking Hindi program, at least from J.P. Stevens school alone has 26 children in sophomore who are in this situation. So now what they will do, even if 1 year learning in any other language is not going to help us. And also our website, the school district has got an objective for the world language program. What is the objective of learning world language? I don't think so. 2 years is not going to meet any of our objectives, what we suggest to the children. So I would request the board members to consider, the administration people to consider, even if it is a difficult choice, if we can make somewhere else the room for it to happen, that will help our children in a long way. And also some of the children has gone 2 years, they have advanced in their proficiency. Now they are in AP level or a honors level course, which certainly will have a positive effect on their GPS. Of course, we all agree, right? When we go to the college, the first thing they look at, Rutgers gives the presidential scholarship just based on GPA and SAT, not on anything else. So we don't want our children to have a like a secondary option, not to compete with the other children. Everyone has got equally. When it comes to children, all are same. And surprisingly, when we did some research and some analysis,
you have 30
our
seconds.
Neighbors.
30 seconds remaining.
Pardon me?
30 seconds.
Oh, thank you. Some of the neighboring school districts are taking us as an example, and then they are trying to introduce Hindi program, like Plainfield and Piscataway townships. And when I met some parents from the Texas, we should be very proud that we are one of the 2 states where we have the Hindi program in the school districts. Texas is trying to introduce the Hindi program now. So since he said time is running out, on behalf of all the parents here, I request the board to consider to reintroduce this program. And
Thank you.
We would like to get when can we know the decision of whether it is going to continue or not?
Well, we're gonna discuss. I think that's when we going back. There are a couple options we're gonna explore, and we try to come back as quickly as we can. I know that some of the kids they're already enrolled in the program. If for some reason we can continue the program, the kids need to switch to the other program. So I understand the urgency that we need to come up something real quick. So that's what we try to do.
Okay. So at least by the next meeting, can we have a date?
We will try, but I can't guarantee you. But we'll do whatever we can to try to resolve that. Certain things it's not as easy, but certainly we'll try.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's all dependent on finding a teacher. I think that's what it boils down to. Like a certified teacher, because to teach in this district, you need to have certain qualifications. And so the first option is to reach out to the teacher who is already teaching and to figure out if she will come back. And then, so that is the only thing. If we find a teacher, we will have the program. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go back discuss, because there's a little personnel thing in there. So there are other options. So I understand the urgency. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. We'll wait for a result, and then probably if you can get us as soon as possible, that will give
Absolutely.
a lot of relief as a parent, actually.
Okay.
So thank you.
Noted.
Can I just say a couple of minutes?
Yes. You got your 6 minutes.
No, I don't need that. He covered most of it. My name is Ramnath Nadaga. I'm from 8 Shank Drive in Edison. I just, he started with all the emotional piece, and that's very good and stuff. But in terms of GPA, right, that's what I'm talking about. Let's come to that. Without that, their GPA falls, and I don't want my daughter to suffer. Plain and simple, right? So, this decision was never told to us. I don't want my daughter coming to me and saying, and I was the one who pushed her in. So, that was, basically that's what I wanted to concentrate on. And like in terms of electives, right, she has to choose pretty fast.
Yes.
Right? And every day she keeps asking. So let's come to it, pretty soon.
Noted.
Right?
Yes.
So that's all I wanted to stress on. It's very serious. I take it, like for what my daughter wants to achieve, I take it pretty seriously, and I was the one who pushed her. So I urge the board members to support. And most of the points were covered. So
thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Okay. So I think the program was when we terminated the program was a couple years back.
Last year.
Last year. Yeah.
Phase.
So how was the communication that was put it out? I think we did some certain communication. I was not part of it. So
I mean, this was I think we voted it on during a board meeting.
Yes.
All of us voted, and and I know that I received one email when this program was discontinued. I think the whole board received one email from one parent, and I could probably dig that email. But we did talk about communication in the CTC meeting, and we talked about that, next time when we do such a thing, what we need to do is, and I don't know if people have noticed, but when you go to the Edison Township website now, the school district, and suppose there's going to be a school closing, before you can actually navigate the website, there's a pop-up which says, school will be closed on such and such day, and you have to do okay, and the pop-up closes, and then you can navigate. So we talked about, when a parent logs into the parent portal, and if there is an important message that you want to give to the parent, so maybe have a pop-up there where the parent has to actually close the box before they can navigate the parent portal. So this way, no communication will be lost in, just transition, not transition, but in whatever. So so basically, obviously there has been a communication gap because these people were not aware. I'm sure they would have come last year when the decision was made. So we did talk about, electronically. Now, we don't really need to send a mail home, because a lot of times, if you send, it can get lost because you get so much of mail. But if we do this electronically, maybe that's one way to make sure that parents get the information. And sometimes even children don't, even if they hear in class, they don't come and tell the parents. Sometimes they forget, sometimes they don't hear, or something else happens.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sayeda Jaffrey. I won't take up much of your time,
Address?
but I did bring a show and tell. I live on 5 Hollywood
please.
Street.
Okay.
5 Hollywood Street, Edison, New Jersey. That's my daughter right there in her lacrosse uniform. She takes Hindi. I just want to tell a quick story. I don't have any references or statistics. Stop and Shop, where the high school is, me and my mom went there and we had to send money to India. So there was this huge line, and me and my mom were talking in Urdu, which is a version of Hindi. And we shouldn't have been, but we were kind of making fun of people and this and that, like, oh, this guy's gonna take forever and this and that. When we got to the counter, the black kid who stood there said to me, he was following my whole conversation. He said to me, "Aapke paas khalam hai kya?" That means, do you need a pen? Because I said to mom, "Oh, you always forget the pen. I don't have a pen." We were talking because we had to fill out the Western Union thing. And I said, "You speak Hindi?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, he actually knew my kid. He took 4 years of Hindi, and he understood what me and my mom were saying. How we were making fun of the people in front of us and everything. I was so embarrassed. And I went home and I asked my kid, I was like, "Do you know this kid? He understood everything I'm saying." So my mom was like, "That's why you should never talk about people." But she was the one who was engaging with me. So the Hindi program really does work. I wish my children spoke it more, but this kid, he lived in Potters and he spoke it excellent. So it's not just the matter of, it's important for us, but here's a side story. And now we don't talk anymore in Urdu. We talk in English, and we talk quietly. So that's it. And Nargis, she's on lacrosse. She made a goal today, so yay.
All right. Thank you. Yes, please.
Respond?
Yes.
I just want to say, I really feel your pain. Because especially the dad who said it's my responsibility, I pushed my kid to take it, and I get that, and I think we all get that, and I think we didn't understand the ramifications when we voted last year to do away with the program, and I regret that there was that breakdown in communication, and we will make every effort to remediate it. But my question is, I'm not quite clear whether you mean to continue the program moving forward or just moving it for next year, keeping it for next year. I was not clear whether, when you said to keep the program, what you were saying.
Thank you. When I said that, as Sakina said, this language is really useful for any children who is learning this language. Everyone will be very happy if the district continues this program as it is today. Because if not today, when we go and then when the world languages are presented in other, say in the middle school, from the high school, they go to the middle school to perform in the world language as a promotion or to give the information about the world language program. Hindi was not part of that program. So many of the children who are in JMI or JMP, even in John Adams, many parents and children, they do not know this township offers this Hindi program. And if the township is offering, there are hundreds and hundreds of children are going to the Hindi USA program, where they pay money and then they study. Rather, the school provides, the district provides beautiful infrastructure to learn the language in the correct way. So that is my first request would be to continue as much as possible, as long as this program can continue. Mm-hmm. Okay. If the worst case scenario, because if I take the worst case scenario, then I'll be selfish. I don't want to be selfish. Because from whatever be the perspective, I don't want to come into the religious area of here. Many scripts are written in this language, in the Hindi language. When you read a script, if you read it in the native language, that helps much better way. So if the worst case scenario, if you continue the program for next 2 years, why I'm saying 2 years is, okay, my children will pass away, my child or any other children, sophomores will go away to it. But whoever joined as a freshman, they will also get the minimum requirement of 3 years. Right? So many colleges say 3 years is the minimum requirement for the world language program. So that at least, so that we will stop. So we stop the program not to enroll any children going forward into this program. So that they will pick any other language, whatever the district offers. So that is my best thing is continue if possible, as much as possible. If not, try for the 2 years. So that no children get affected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add, right? Some colleges won't even accept the application.
Understood.
Less than
Understood.
3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Name and address.
My name is Geet Mankad, and my address is 8 Keene Lane, Edison, New Jersey. And I'll not beat the same points again, but as a forward-looking thing, I think you always look at corrective and preventive action, I guess. So when I say this, if you are looking at the worst case scenario, you should look at it from a point, from my point of view, is that you should look at it from the point that you can phase out the program. So let's say if you're only continuing for 2 years, then for the kids who are enrolling in the first year now, you should probably stop them from enrolling in the for the future, for this year. And then, for example, if you are looking at it from a long-run perspective as a preventive action, or let's say as a bigger action, then obviously you have students who are enrolling for Hindi program. So that's the best course, I mean.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Vikram Saini from 45 Lavender Drive, Edison. I just want to point out three points. Why can't we continue the same teacher? Have we approached her already? Has she denied?
That's one of the options we're gonna discuss.
We're gonna discuss
Yes.
that. And other point you mentioned that communication was done, or I see a lot of emails come from all the time. Why can't we communicate it through email also? Like we get, every week we get email on, there are some programs, athletic programs and other programs. We get repeated emails on that. But this is important related to GPA. We should be getting a proper email as well as pop-up, as you suggested. We would look forward to have the proper communication on that. And third item, I think Hindi program is run by a grant. So what will happen to that grant if that's what my understanding is?
It's funded through the budget. It is not grant funded.
It's not grant funded. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Matt Rebnak, Vice President ETA, 2 Ethel Road. Just a couple points. First of all, I just want to mention Amy Marzano gave the presentation before, but as she was doing that, her husband is sitting at the Pines Manor being recognized for the WMGQ Teachers That Make Magic. So I did want to mention that because nobody brought it up. I don't know if you're familiar, but that's nominated through students. Yes. That goes through the radio station. Yep. And so that's a nice honor that, wow. You know, unfortunately she was here, he was there. I think she was running to try to get there as well.
I hope she makes it.
I hope so too. Mr. Marzano's a teacher at J.P. Stevens. He's also the baseball coach at J.P. Stevens. And, you know, I've been a colleague for about 20 years that he's been in the district, and he is an excellent person and teacher. The second thing I just want to bring up or ask about was the Stop It program. The email did come out, and you know, a lot of teachers weren't aware of it. I explained it to them because it was mentioned in one of the prior board meetings, I believe a couple months ago. Some concerns came up to me was about, it's mentioned about the ability for students to, for example, take pictures and videotape, but is that a violation of our technology policy? Because we don't allow the students, for example, to do those things. And if a student's walking down the hallway and snapping pictures or videotaping, we understand the purpose. We don't think it's a bad program, but that's one of the concerns that came up. So I did want to mention that to, you know, the board and to Dr. O'Malley. As far as the Hindi program, I just want to mention is that, you know, nobody ever wants to see a program go away. But unfortunately, the enrollment is down. We're dealing with it from a different aspect because we do have a teacher involved, and I'm not going to go into specifics, but we're even trying to work with the teacher for their ability to possibly be able to teach other courses to try to get certification. I know that, you know, some plans have been talked about through the board with it. So especially the students that are currently in the program, nobody ever wants to see the students be hurt. I do want to mention this, though, because I have, you know, I deal with colleges a lot. I teach seniors, write recommendations. I've taught to college admissions officers, and I have 2 daughters, one who just graduated, one that's in college. GPA is important, but there's many aspects to college acceptance. In fact, my response from college admissions officers was SATs, for example, are a base requirement. You know, once they meet that requirement, SATs are basically thrown out the window. And in fact, many colleges have even gotten away from SATs. It's, you know, test optional. For something like that, if your child approaches or talks to admission officer and explain the situation, sometimes they'll even waive something like that. You know, it's something they need to call and talk to them about. You may even want to include it in their essay. That would be a great essay topic, the hurdle that they overcame in 2 years of a language, and, you know, unfortunately they couldn't finish it or they had to go through a different avenue. So I'm hoping it works out also. I don't want to see the students be affected, and obviously we have a teacher that's been in the district for over 10 years. You know, I know the board is working feverishly to try to resolve it, and they are taking the best interest of the students into account. So I, you know, as a person that's not sitting there, I did want to mention it to the, you know, your parents that are here. Okay. And I also want to thank Mr. Urkel, Mr. Urkel and Mr. Brescia, who braved the cold weather with us on Sunday. And yeah, it was, for considering the weather, it was a nice little turnout, and I know the kids that were there had a lot of fun. So we, you know, I'm sure we'll continue that, and hopefully next year we'll have a little better weather.
Yeah, pick a better day.
Right. Vice President suggested maybe we need to go into May a little bit. And also the Care Walk, thank you for mentioning that. It is April 29th. You know, and again, the funds and all for that go to needy families within the Edison community. So we do ask people to come out and support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Howard.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I'd like to begin by expressing my pleasure at hearing Jill and Amy speaking about GT today. I had the privilege of working with both the young ladies when I taught in the district, but I was at the complete other end of the spectrum with the children that I worked with. But there were many times when I went to them for advice, and it was always so worthy of my appreciation to them. And hearing of a new program going on to the district and reaching out to a complete grade level, I was so impressed with that. And it leads to my question of curriculum. And we hear about this pilot, and we hear about this pilot, and we hear about this pilot. And sometimes it makes me sad because some of the programs that we did bring in after big investigations only last a couple of years, and then they're gone to move on because the thoughts and ideas have changed by the people that are looking into the programs. Some of the programs that we have gotten over the years initially weren't taken, with great heart because of lack of professional development. But after a couple of years of a teacher really grasping the different programs, you gain to really appreciate that program, and then all of a sudden you hear down the line, well, now we're looking into something else. So I question to be careful when looking into different programs to make sure that those programs that you're looking to reaches out to all the different levels. Because I know personally I had problems over the years that some of the programs were not geared to my students, and it was a little harder to function because, number one, to fit it in with the standards that are needed to comply with programs and the levels of the students that we're dealing with, sometimes it doesn't match. So you really need to think hard about changing a program or letting a program go. My favorite was years ago, there was a math program, and it reached every student from the lowest level of reteaching to enrichment. And I was actually sad to see it go.
What was the name of the program?
What was the name? It was Pearson. Right, Scott's foreman. And age, senior moment. So I would think long and hard before you move forward on to any program to make sure. And when you do have a committee, make sure the committee is made up of the various levels to ensure that we're reaching everybody for the sake of saving money and not just let's try something new. My next question is the graduation date. You talked about maybe changing it to a Friday or a Saturday. I was always under the assumption that graduation had to be the last day of school. Was this an old wives' tale, or was this the idea years ago that we had to have graduation on the last day of school? That was never, I just made it up.
You don't have to. I don't believe.
There's no regulations.
There's no rule. Okay. I always use that as a great excuse. So I guess people listened to me, but I didn't know. I guess I didn't know what I was talking about. And I did attend. My last item is I did attend the Wingman program this morning, and I was highly impressed with it. But I think we need to be very careful as to how we're going to be starting. And I know we're always talking about get a committee for this and get a committee for that, but we're really going to need a committee to decide how much we want to delve into this program initially. The best way to start a program is by starting small, and then by word of mouth, it would stretch out. Whereas if we jump in it too large, even though we are a large district, I think we need to just be careful as to, because I don't want a program like this to fail, and if we jump in too big, it might be just a little overwhelming. So I'm just asking you to be careful. And do we need approval to get this program? I know there was like I thought he said there was like a $4,000
No, there's no
amount.
money. No. No, what, I'm sorry. What Ian said was that a school might like the money, like there's grants that they have through the foundation, and you might like to get T-shirts for the kids that are the trainers. There are expenses like in the materials that they use, like the toothpaste that he talked about to do the project, but there is no cost to the foundation whatsoever.
Yeah, but it's still an expense. Do we have to go through to get approval?
There doesn't have to be an expense at all.
We love spending money in
But Liz, I thought I did say that we would roll this out small. Didn't I say that before?
Well, I just want...
Right. And the other thing is, what my fear with any program is, just like you're talking about, curriculum, you start out gung-ho, and then you train the first wave of teachers and everybody's excited, and then a year or two later you've got a different staff and you got to start all over again. That's the danger of any new program. And Ian said to me on our way back to my house at the end of the meeting that if a school is not 100% behind it and is like on the fence, iffy, it's a no for them. Like they only want schools that know that they can commit. Or they sit back and watch other schools start the program and see how it goes. We're not trying to ram this down anybody's throat. This is purely voluntary, and if the school feels the need and it's going to really help them and enhance what they do with the children. So I just want to be clear.
Yes, but we need to make sure that start small. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Carol Badowski, 39 Jonathan Drive. First, I've always, throughout my career in education, been taught that curriculum is what comes first. We as a district, that's Board of Ed, staff, parents, community, determine what we think is important for the children to learn, and that includes standards, requirements for the state also. And once we determine that, then we get programs. We buy them, we develop them, and we purchase which programs that support the curriculum. Because the important thing is the curriculum and the students being taught the curriculum. And that allows for differentiation for Mrs. Conway's former students, for my former students, who didn't quite fit in with some of the programs and weren't learning the best way through some of the programs we purchased, but they were able to learn and master the curriculum. So as long as the instruction that's taking place addresses the district's curriculum and what we want them to learn and need them to learn, then there's possibility for differentiation to meet student needs. So, but we do seem to go through a lot of programs recently. But I didn't come to complain. I just wanted to commend the board for your recognition of National School Nurse Day. I see it on the agenda, and I'm hoping that as last year, you'll have a copy of your resolution in the Monday meeting agenda, because I think that's really good. In the elementary schools, a lot of teachers and students often recognize their school nurse on this day with handmade cards and songs that mean a lot to the school nurse. So between the busy school calendar and the rigorous schedule, they often need a reminder of the date to jumpstart them. So I know last year when you put the resolution in the minutes, it did remind a lot of teachers. Any little recognition or message is special to the school nurses, because you see too often their interactions with children, parents, teachers, and administrators come at a time of crisis when someone is hurt or ill. And in between stressful incidents, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But they are still there every day working hard to keep the students and staff healthy and strong. Even the simplest thank you on this special day is appreciated by our dedicated nurses. The purpose of National School Nurse Day was to foster better understanding of the role of school nurses in the educational setting. School nurses were originally assigned to public schools in an attempt to stop the spread of communicable diseases, which are shared so rapidly in when large numbers of children are together in enclosed situations. This involved checking to be sure the children had the right vaccinations, teaching cleanliness, and sending home sick children. Then came first aid for playground injuries, and suddenly the role over the years has exploded and become more complex due to societal needs. Our school nurses have become superheroes. In case you still wonder why we have school nurses, in a nutshell, the 5 ways a school nurse benefits the school include improving attendance, improving academic performance, saving time for principals, teachers, and staff, improving staff wellness, and helping the school stay accountable. The Phi Delta Kappan calls school nurses as an investment in a school's achievement and suggests that school districts view them as an investment rather than a cost because of the myriad of ways they support student learning. Since I'm doing numbers, you might say that the school nurse is 1 in a million. But in some of Edison schools, probably many of them, she is definitely 1 in 1,000. 1 nurse for 1,000 students, 100 staff members, and 1 or 2 principals. In Edison, we have at last count 19 certified school nurses, 5 registered nurses, and 2 licensed practical nurses. However you look at it, our school nurses do deserve a special day to be recognized and appreciated. So I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to the district for recognizing this and to all the school nurses in our district and all the school nurses everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? See none? Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you got to be quick.
Brett Baker, 140 Grandview Avenue. I just want to echo Ms. Conway. When I first heard the science presentation today, I was like, oh, great, another program that's only tailored to the GT and fantastic. But I got goosebumps hearing that we've got a program in place that reaches all of the second grade students, and I think that's really awesome. I just encourage that to continue. As a former second grade teacher, hearing the language being used in that program was phenomenal. I wish I had something like that. As a second grader, I remember that was the year I learned to love science, and so just really amped to hear and see that. On the topic of nursing, similarly, just echo the love and appreciation for the nurses. Just want to mention, because I know we always sometimes scratch our heads and go, oh, we've got a shortage in staffing for nurses, and it's really hard to fill. A few years ago when I was working in Newark, I started a partnership with the University of Scranton's nursing department that sent student nurses over every year to help us with some of our screenings. And then what that helped to do was expose nursing students who typically are used to wanting to go into the clinical environment to what a world of being a school nurse could be. And so since we are mere miles from what some would argue is the greatest Big Ten university, but as a Michigan State alum, I would argue the second greatest Big Ten university, we might be able to foster partnership with Rutgers for potential nursing relationships to help with that. And similarly may also help some of this staffing issue related to the foreign language departments. Not sure if you can answer it, but just want to put out there, would love to hear if the district has a statement or a position on the potential for an April 20th National School Walkout Day. But I know you'll answer questions at the end of my time. And also would love to hear if there's an update on the school police officer staffing. My Facebook has been blowing up with apparently the announcement of a Class 3 officer requesting for retired officers, and I thought we were looking for overtime officers. So before I say I told you so, I would just love to hear if we have any update on how that program is going. So I will leave it to that.
Okay. You want to address a couple?
As far as the April 20th, both high schools do have something planned and will participate.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
And the police officers?
Can you repeat that question?
Just wanted to just kind of, because I know like at the last, I wasn't able to make the last board meeting, but the last caucus meeting, there was discussion about having to increase the hourly rate for the resource officers. But now it looks like we may even have a bigger staffing issue given that the police department is asking for a new special class of officers. And so I just want to know, are we facing a staffing issue or?
So it's always been to have the middle schools and the high school staff with the overtime officers. We've always tried to make sure the plan included other things, so there is opportunities for Class 3. That's always been an option. That's something that the police department is looking into. But for this school year, the plan states as we originally did to have overtime officers.
And that's being staffed appropriately and
it's being staffed
with the new salary, the hourly. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
No. Good.
Any other public comments? See none. Then before you actually read the closed session resolution, I just want to add a couple items.
Okay.
Because we have I just saw a vendor came in. So the two items I want to add is the insurance broker.
Right.
It's on? It's already on there? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right. And the other is the audit.
Audit?
Insurance, performance audit.
That one's on there.
Yeah.
But we have a bullet for it.
Yeah. Just want to discuss in closed session.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. If we are ready, yeah.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of Township of Edison as follows. 1, the public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the herein specified subject matters. 2, the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding special education student issues, employee grievances and per claims, insurance broker contract and audit. Personnel will be discussing resignations and terminations, retirements, appointments, leaves of absences, changes of status, longevity, substitute staff, extended school year, ESL program, extended day STEM program, summer school, middle school math, pre-algebra summer school, the Avid Summer School Program, the Algebra 1 Refresher Program in the summer, Summer Literacy Academy, and coaching appointments and co-curricular appointments. 3, it is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists, and 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Errico? Mr. Maroney?
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mrs. Maneker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
Do we plan on doing any actions after closed session?
No, we don't plan to do any actions after, the closed session, so I see you guys on Monday.